Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being today's council meeting. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Fort, don't sit down.
Okay.
If you can lead us. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now you can sit. Yes, thank you. Okay, nothing has been pulled from the consent agenda, so could I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you. Next, we're at the report and recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Good afternoon, Bynum Walter, Raleigh Planning and Development. As usual, a reminder of our upcoming holidays, which we enjoyed yesterday, and further Veterans Day and Thanksgiving, month after next. We have some public hearings that are already scheduled. So at your next meeting, we will hear the continuation of the Hillsborough Street, Turner Street rezoning request, as well as the continuation of Nowell Road. And then we don't have anything scheduled past that at this time for rezonings. And then upcoming on October 1st, we are recommending for the 3 items coming out of Planning Commission public hearing for October 1st, that evening meeting for these 3 items. And so let's talk about those. The first is 1708 Lake Wheeler Road. This is a piece of state-owned property being acquired by the power company for construction of a power station. They're asking for a zoning change to allow that. Planning Commission recommends approval. The second item is on Grove Avenue and Carolina Avenue. This is a request to remove the conditions that were applied to the property back in 2020, 2021. Planning Commission recommended approval with a split vote, and that public hearing is suggested as October 1. And then finally, this is a staff-initiated item for an amendment to the Raleigh street plan and the comprehensive plan. You'll remember you approved the Kyle Drive Park master plan at your last meeting at the recommendation of the Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board. And this amendment would facilitate implementation of that plan that you just adopted. Planning Commission recommended approval unanimously, and a public hearing is suggested for October 1. Any questions I could answer for you before you set the public hearing dates for these items?
Councilmember Jones, and then Pat.
Thank you so much. For Z21, in reading the opposition, I think, from the Planning Commission, it said something about removing conditions that would limit impervious surface coverage. Can you help me understand that better?
Sure. So the request here from the applicant, the owner, is to remove all of the zoning conditions that were applied in 2020, 2021. And those were largely offered in response to neighbor concerns that were voiced at that time. Now the owner is wanting to remove those conditions. They go above and beyond code. Stormwater staff has reviewed that request. They generally feel that our code is adequate. If the applicant wants to offer more, that is acceptable, but also comfortable with what would result from adopted regulation with or without conditions.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Patton.
Yeah, hi. Can you go to the Lake Wheeler Road case? Thanks. So one question I had was just, can they not accomplish their stated purpose in the existing zoning?
I think the issue, so they are split zoned now, which I think is frustrating to them. And then there is frontage there and also conditions that I believe limit their ability to do what they want to be able to do.
Okay, got it. And then the second question I had about this, I think several of the conditions have language like, if a tier 2 or tier 3 site plan is required, then X things would flow. What is the likelihood that the stated purpose will trigger a tier 2 or tier 3 site plan?
So the site's undeveloped now and they want to build a power station.
So highly likely?
Highly likely, is that a question we could answer for you at the public hearing?
Okay,
Is that,
that would be great.
okay.
Councilmember Harrison.
Yeah, just going back to Z21, just making sure I understand the conditions that would be removed. From my read, existing zoning conditions prohibit the apartment building type. They require a 30-foot and 60-foot building setback from properties to the south, requires this minimum roof pitch, restricts impervious surface, as well as setting aside 20% of the area as open space, and vehicular access currently is required from Barstow Drive. So they're asking to remove all of those items.
That is correct. They're asking to remove all of the conditions.
Okay. Well, I just want to put on the record that I haven't heard from this applicant, and I'd like them to touch base with me before this comes, but I'm happy to set the hearing.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion on the public hearings?
Move to set the public hearing dates as recommended by staff.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you. All right, next we have special items. First item is the Raleigh Community Advisory Council follow-up.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Lou Bonapane, City Clerk. This item originates from the August 20th City Council meeting, and Council asked that the item be placed on this agenda for discussion of appointing a council liaison to the Raleigh Citizen Advisory Council.
My recommendation is that we wait until the new council is sworn in on this. So there's some consistency, and that the new mayor would make that appointment.
Motion, can I second?
It wasn't a motion. It just, do I need to make a motion? No. If you'll bring it forward when after the next council is sworn in, probably January of 2025, that would be
We'll
good.
flag this for bringing it back to council in January of next year.
Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, next we have report and recommendation to the city manager.
Wow, I think we're working on record time today, so I will stay with that.
Oh, you just
I
blew
just
it.
jinxed it.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. So I have two items today. One you'll see on the agenda, and then one is a follow-up for a Fourth Ward event that we had on Sunday. The first one is a PNC Arena enhancement update, and we have Evan Raleigh who will tee this item up, and we have some friends and guests in the audience.
We do have some friends. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. Evan Raleigh with the manager's office, and I knocked on wood to keep us covered on that one. So as this council will recall, last August you made some significant decisions with regard to the allocation of the interlocal hospitality funds, supported several projects, one of those being the renovation of PNC Arena. And so with us this afternoon, we have Jeff Merritt with the Centennial Authority and Mr. Philip Isley, who is the chairman of the Centennial Authority, to give you an update on the status of their work. So I'll turn it over to these gentlemen.
Hey, guys. How are y'all? Thank you for having Jeff and me come see y'all today. Before I get started, I wanted to give a shout out to some of the Centennial Authority members that are also sitting in the audience, and for those who might be watching us virtually. But we have 4 board members here: Bill Mullins, Scott Fowlman, Rod Malone, Perry Saffron. I think all 3 but Perry are city appointees. Perry is a county appointee. We're going to go talk to Wake County tonight as well, so they'll see this same presentation. Also want to introduce Brian Fork. Brian is 1/3 of the group of individuals who took over from Don Waddell when Don left. Brian is the CEO of Gale Force Holdings, and he, along with Doug Wharf and Eric Tulsky, are now the brain trust around the arena when it comes to hockey operations as well as development potential. Doug is more community-facing, but they have a great new team here for Gale Force. We're very excited to get moving forward on so many different things that we have going on right now. But what we thought we'd do today is to come back and tell you, again, thank you so much for all of your help in getting us moving on our enhancement project, which if we are able to get through some other government processes, the local government commission, we will start that in earnest. after the next hockey season. So that is our hope, that's our intention. We could not do any of this without your support and frankly, your undying and unwavering support as we went through this process. So thank you for that. Jeff Merritt is also here. He's my executive director. Everybody knows Jeff. I know we have some PowerPoints to go through, but I just want to be clear to express our deep, deep gratitude to what you've done to make this an incredible part of our city moving forward, not only with the enhancement process, but everything else that we have going on out there. So turn it over to Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Philip. And I just want to reiterate that. Also thank a bunch of staff. I mean, I look at Allison and Lou and a bunch of people who really helped us get to this process. It was funny, when I left the building, they were making the ice for this season, and when they melt the ice, we'll be starting this enhancement project. So that kind of brings it together after all these years of all of us talking about putting this together, and now we're staring it right in the face. So what we thought we would do today is give you really just a brief update about what we're thinking about and how this is going to work. Yeah, so again, we want to try to make this the world-class venue for the next 25 years. It will encompass ancillary development, which is a still work in progress, and we're going to create a live, work, play, and stay in this real unprecedented opportunity. It's going to be a 2025 through 2027 project. It will be phased. We're going to keep the building open as much as possible. There will be times, though, probably in 26 and 27, when we will need to close the building for an extended period of time. 30 days, 20 days, 45 days, I don't really know, but it would be in the June, July, August timeframe when we would do that. That is typically our less event times, and of course, hockey season hopefully ends late in June. If for whatever reason they fail to go to the 7th game of the Stanley Cup Finals, which is how we're planning everything, then we may get a few extra days to work. But that's how we're doing it. I wanted to give you just a sense of the design drivers of this. Fans are really at the forefront. We want to create an experience that is really beyond just the event. Can't really help what goes on the ice or basketball court, but we can make sure that your experience when you walk in and out of the building is the best it can be. We want it to be unique to the region. We don't just want a cookie cutter in there. We want to be agile, efficient, and simple. We want to grow our revenue opportunities. That's always important. And we want to be a catalyst for the community. This is just a brief overview. There are 3 real levels of the building, including the 4th, which is the club level. But I just want to focus on the 3 that we're really focused a lot of design attention right now. Our arena level, which is the part of the building that people come in, concerts, the players, everything that goes on facility-wise usually goes on our event level. Our main concourse, which is what you see when you walk in the building on the 1st floor, and then the 3rd level, the 300 level. Those are the 3 areas we're going to kind of focus in on today. Let's start on the arena level. This is really our function space. This is where things come in and out of the building. If you've ever been there, and I know back when you were working for the Hurricanes, you probably saw this. When we load in concerts, these concerts can be 28, 30 trucks at a time, and they have to back in. It's about a 7 to 10 minute process. We want to really create some more operational efficiencies for those trucks by maybe adding to our loading dock area, for example. We'll talk about that in just a moment.
And that's a 7 minute per truck.
Per truck, yeah.
Coming in and out. You think about a 30 or 40 truck concert, that's a lot of unused in this time.
Yeah, and why that's important is that because, really there's only a handful of players in the concert and event business now, and you want to make those people very, very happy, so they select Raleigh and not somebody else to bring their big show. So if we could take 7 to 10 minutes down to 1 to 3 minutes, doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's a really big deal to them. If you think about it, they're coming up from another city at 4 or 5 in the morning and trying to get set up for a show that's going to start at 7 or 8 that night. Also, in the main concourse, we're looking to add additional space. We'll show you some ideas about that later. We want to create more opportunities for people to move around the building. Better flow is a big key there. And we want more food and beverage options. I think one of the things we've been consistent with going back years is that part of what Raleigh and Central North Carolina's charm is now is that it's a culinary destination, and we want to put as many opportunities to showcase what goes on here to the 1.6 million people that come through our building, because a lot of those people are coming to this region for the very first time, or they live outside the region. I want them to leave feeling like they know Raleigh and Wake County a whole lot better. Let's talk a little bit about, and we want that to be very, with the ancillary development, which is still coming out of the ground and still thinking about what that's going to look like. We want it to be all compatible. And our main floor is our entrance. The upper level really has some opportunities. We want to give the entry-level person, that 300 level, that's where I took my kids 20 years ago when we started going to shows there. We want to create, again, more options, more premium options for those fans, and went one too far. And we want to just create some more space. We'll talk about how we're going to do that efficiently. Gensler and LS3P are doing a fantastic job working with us to try to maximize and capture the space there so that we're not expanding out, if that makes sense, and it will in a minute. One of the things we want to try to do, going back to the A level, is create this sort of big multi-purpose room. If you've ever been on our A level, there's one big room in the basement, as I call it, that everything goes on there. There's staff meals. There's tours use it. It's where the press conferences happen for Coach Brendan Moore and Coach Keats afterwards. We want to create what would really be a large space building for, or room for us rather, can do just about anything in it, from press conferences to pregame meals to VIP spaces for concerts. This just gives you some idea about what LS3P and Gensler are thinking about doing. It would be video wall heavy. It would be very, again, you could move things. There's a wall that you can't really see it very well on this presentation slide, but we could create a wall space there so one side could be something and one side could be something else. This is another kind of way you could look at that room. Let's go upstairs. This is where the ideas really get exciting to me. So one of the ideas is that we could remove some of the stairways. We have way too many stairways in the building. And if we could take some of those out, it would create these pink spaces there, kind of show that. We could do something there, right? That could be anything from additional toilets, which we want to definitely do, sensory rooms, family rooms, storage. We could do marketplaces, grab and goes, additional concessions. The palette is really there for somebody to create a really nice experience. And so these are just, again, some ideas. We could create 20 additional women's toilets. We could create nursing and sensory rooms, operations and storage, more janitor space. It could just really be a nice place. And these are another additional spaces up there for marketplaces. Again, we want you to feel very comfortable about going and making a quick purchase and going back to your seat. And so this is what we could do with some of those spaces. You see here a rendering of what we call the arena marketplace. These might be quartered in the building. And so you can go in and go out very, very quickly. Really happy with this idea too. This is what we call the West Hub Market. When you come up on the third level from the escalators, you would be introduced to a whole wide world of culinary experiences. Again, we really want to bring that experience of being in Raleigh and Wake County into PNC Arena for our visitors. Finally, one of the things they want to do up there is to create a view bar. One of the things about our building is in the 90s, when you built these kind of things, there weren't many openings to the bowl. You just kind of walked around in a solid and then you went to your seat to see it. We want to at least experiment with creating this view bar up here. It would be in the corner, northeast corner. It might look like that. Again, it's a standing room only. What our fans have told us, and this is a real key piece of what's driving all these. These are not just Jeff and our board and our designers sitting in a room and making these things up. This is a lot of feedback from all kinds of people that use the building, from corporate sponsors all the way to just your bread and butter. Somebody bought a ticket one time. We surveyed them. They told us what we wanted. And part of what they said is they want more spaces to just stand and, have their friends meet them, have a couple beers or whatever, and watch a game. So one of the ideas is to maybe create a view bar up in the 300 level. And if this really works, we may create another one on another corner. Again, opening up the bowl, right? We want to make it loud and feel, like there's just so much energy in the building. There already is on a sold-out game night, but bringing that into the concourse and making people feel like something's really happening. Now this is where it gets conceptual, and this is way out. This is more like 2026 and 27. What I've just showed you, the A level and the 300 level and the loading dock. There's not any really cool pictures to show you the loading dock because it's just a big concrete pad. But those are the three things we're thinking about for starting this summer. Again, the 300 level and the A level will get a lot of attention this summer, and then the loading dock area would also. So that's what we're teeing up for this summer. What I'm about to talk to you about is more like 26 and 27, right? And we're still very into the early stages of that. But if you look on this slide, you can see Carter Finley Stadium would be on the right of this, and so this is really the front door. And these two big kind of orange slices that you see on the corners there, right now, those are just concrete things, right? What are they, about 6 feet off the ground? What Gensler and LS3P want us to do is to, again, maximize our existing space so that we can create a unique experience, make the building look brand new. So they're thinking about ways they can do that, again, inexpensively and efficiently where there already is some infrastructure there. And that some of those plaza areas there are kind of wasted space right now. So we want to see if we can unwaste them. I think I just invented a new word, so you're welcome. These are just some preliminary looks at what this might look like. SML means small, medium, large. They just kind of give you a sense of we're trying to create a front door, a really welcoming place that looks like we just built a brand new $1.5 billion building without spending $1.5 billion. But these are some of the concepts we're thinking about doing. Again, creating a wide open glass experience. We want LEDs. And this faces Carter Finley. And we talked earlier about campus compatibility. That's really important to the authority, is making sure that when visitors come here, they think it's just one giant thing, right? One big piece of property. So these are just some of the ideas there. I'll scroll through these pretty fast, but you can kind of see where they're going with this. For example, I think this is my favorite, to just be fair. It creates a very open, sunny, well-lit. Those escalators there would be new, and they would take patrons directly to the third level. One of the things right now that's sort of a weird part of our building is that if you're going to the third level, you have to go in, go around, and then go up, and then go back. What if we could just send you straight up there? So these are, again, just some ideas that we're playing with. This is what the southwest entrance could look like. Southwest is basically you're coming up Carter Finley Stadium, again, from your right. And then, to me, this is the money shot right here. This is what the arena could look like. Again, this is not what it is going to look like, but I wanted you to get a sense of the thought process. Again, front door that makes it look like we just built a brand new building. And that's really it. I know that was short. There's a lot going on right now in sort of planning, but Philip, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
I mean, the only thing I would say is, from our standpoint, we're finalizing design ideas. We're trying to figure out what those design ideas may cost, but we still have to get through the local government commission, which is, as y'all well know, when you're spending public money, they have to make sure that you're doing it the right way, and so that will happen in November.
Well, the initial process starts tomorrow, but then November is when we go before the local government commission.
So assuming that goes well, we'll hit bonds to the market in early 2025. And that is when we can sort of get our ducks in a row and start moving forward. And you're going to see lots of changes along the way. I mean, again, there's no way of knowing what the interest rates are going to look like. Again, it's helpful that y'all have a fairly sizable building project yourself that at the same time. So we're all struggling with these, how you pay for the cool ideas that people want to see, but we're trying to maximize every nickel that we can, that we get from our public funding to ensure that this building is not only going to be around for the next 15, 20, 25 years, but longer if we decide that it needs to be. So we're excited. There is a ton going on around the building. But again, without your help and support, we wouldn't be here. And I just can't even imagine where we would be if that did not happen. So thank you for everything y'all have done. We're happy to answer questions quickly if you want us to, or you can also just call us, whichever.
Councilmember Harrison.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you all for coming to give us an idea of what's to come. I'm curious how you might be involved, or how it will work with the plan development around the arena. Will your board have an active role in providing feedback or input?
Well, the person that's in charge of that plan development is sitting in this audience somewhere
Right
here. Well, also the attorney, Jamie.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But we will have involvement in that, but obviously we're not the developer. So, I mean, we're continuing to have conversations as this goes forward, but, they are the developer of the property. And so as that project goes forward, you'll see probably more involvement from the Gale 4 side, but we're still going to have a say in sort of control over some of the design ideas as we move forward. But hopefully the rezoning occurs and they can get to town going on what they want to do on that side as well, which is to develop, this 80 acres full of asphalt.
And I think it's fair to say that the development team has been working really close with me and with Gensler to try to understand what we're going to do to the enhancement piece so that it fits in very well. The development is still a work in progress. I mean, if you looked at it, the enhancement train left the station a while back. The development train's trying to catch up to it. But there's a ton of coordination and effort going into making sure that it looks and feels like it should, which is a first-class area, or world-class.
And the other thing I would say as to that, Jane, is that is also going to be a highly phased process as well to deal with football seasons and hockey seasons of parking. And so all that's being taken into consideration as we move forward on the development side of things. Our hope and really our guess is probably at the end of the 25 football season when people will start seeing activity out there that's not inside our building. That's what everybody is hoping for right now.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, I just want to ensure coordination ongoing and certainly thinking about residents and neighbors and other businesses in the area that might have, input and thoughts on this as well.
Hey, I just want to say, this is amazing. Jeff, I think back to when our days at the chamber, when this site was first identified, and people were saying, oh, development will happen around it. Blah. No, nothing ever happened. And now it's going to. So 30 years later, we're looking at a vision or thought that we hope for is now happening, and it's fun to be part of the group making that happen. So I just want to say, too, you know what I told you a couple of years ago? You did it and made it happen. And I just want to say thank you, because this is really going to change our community for the better. Like, when I look at what's happened at the Battery with the Braves, bringing $3 billion a year in our economy, it's a game changer. And sports, we need to think about sports differently. We need to think about it as that economic driver, because it can really make a difference. So I am totally pumped, and I just want to say thank you. And thanks to all the authority members who are here. Oh, and you too, Brian. Councilmember Patton.
Yeah, hi, thanks, y'all. This all looks great. Thanks for the updates. I hope they can be semi-regular. I'd love to just stay attuned to this. A couple of thoughts to the extent that our feedback is useful to you. Don't sleep on the nursing rooms. I was great to see up there, and I hope you get at least one or two somewhere in there. I was a nursing mom myself, and my whole life was abided by that clock, and there were things I didn't do, like events I would have skipped because of that. So I think that's an important move. I was curious if the view bar that you showed us, would that be its own ticket area or just sort of a stopover?
I think the thing is probably be a little bit of both. I think the idea is that anybody can come up there that wants to come up there. That would be the reason that's placed where it is in the building. And let me go back to that one if I can. Is because usually the stage for in-stage concerts is in front of it. So this space would be backstage and not available for concerts. For sporting events, obviously, or anything that's going on that's 360 degrees, it would be. But I think the idea is that anybody can go up there and enjoy and stand and watch the game, but on a Stanley Cup playoff or state in Carolina where there's a lot of interest, they're selling SRO, standing room only seats for up there, but this would not be an exclusive anything.
Got it. Understood. Cool. And then my last question is just on the plaza and entrance area. Have you considered shade structures or anything to abate some of the heat baking off that?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely in the thought process for up there, because it'd be uncomfortable on this past weekend, right? But again, those are just concepts. All we've done is just shaded those areas and said, let's get to work on fixing that. But to your point, I think the way to make that an indoor-outdoor space, for example, if that's what we end up doing, would be to create some shade space, just because that's direct. That's the That's on the west side of the building, so it gets the direct sun at the worst possible time of day, right? So, yeah, but those were just kind of, that's the piece of the coloring book we hadn't quite figured out yet.
Thanks.
Councilmember Jones?
Hi. Thank you so much for being here. Is this the time to ask about parking and about that flow? Or is this something that you're handling as we do the redevelopment of this, or is that with the overall development? Because sometimes it's really challenging getting in there.
I would say part of our effort, a big part of our effort with the development team is figuring out not just parking, but ingress and egress. The development never made any other promises other than we're going to make this as good of experience as we can. I think there's a lot of different ideas about how to do that. We're still trying to piece all that together, but parking and getting in and off the property is a clear focus of everybody. We just hadn't quite gotten there yet.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate you being here today.
Awesome. And one quick thing and one that'll take a little bit longer. You will recall at the meeting on the 20th, I think it was Councilmember Harrison asked for staff to design an additional community engagement process to talk about the Red Hat relocation project. And I am happy to announce that that event will be held on Monday, September the 9th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. in the auditorium, in the Memorial Auditorium in the lobby at the Martin Marietta Performing Arts Center. And it will be from 6 to 7:30. There will be 3 topic areas: the amphitheater relocation, traffic impacts, and future plans for the Chavis Dick Strollway. Questions will be answered live at the open house. Light refreshments will be served. And then we're going to offer opportunities later this week for people to submit questions in advance. Look for our social media platforms and you'll be able to engage prior to next Monday. So next Monday from 6 to 7:30 at Martin Marietta in the Memorial Auditorium lobby. And I hate that Miss Octavia Rainey is not here today.
Well, she was busy last week,
Yes,
so we'll cut her some slack.
Yeah, we'll give her some slack, but she is doing exactly what she does. She's been a good neighbor and taking care of one of her neighbors who has fallen ill and doesn't have family here, so she's staying with them until their family from out of town gets here. But I think many of you know this past week was filled with wonderful opportunities to highlight, elevate, and educate the community about Fourth Ward. Ms. Rainey asked that I give comments at Sunday evening's event, but needless to say, there were so many great gospel groups there that we almost had church, and we ran out of time, and if it goes a little bit long, y'all can blame Councilmember Harrison again, because she said, just do it on Tuesday, so that those that were really concerned about Fourth Ward kind of understood and heard from us really what the city's commitment is going to be moving forward. So I had to go back and modify my words a little bit because it's a different audience and we're not in a church setting. So I will kind of share with you the majority of what I was going to say to the group on Sunday. And really, quite frankly, it was an amazing event, and many of you all participated in the whole 6-7 day extravaganza. Y'all know Octavia, she goes big or not at all. So it was a lot. So as Raleigh continues to grow into her best self and create the identity and brand that sets us apart from others, we must always acknowledge our past and pay homage to those who got us to this moment. It is important that we acknowledge that Raleigh's history has been complicated, complex, emotional, and even messy at times. However, our history is rich, and it is rooted in the legacy of the very people that helped to make this city great. Our unique history serves as a teacher in that it helps to teach us about the past, and by learning about the past, you grow to understand the present so that you can make educated decisions about the future, our shared future. A future that is inclusive and inviting to all, despite your zip code, your level of education, the amount of your paycheck, or letters behind your name. a future that accepts that we may not have always gotten it right, but it also acknowledges that when you know better, you do better. Let's collectively agree to do better. I did get the opportunity to say that on Sunday. So we all committed that we're going to do better. We are a city that remains focused during turbulent times and steadfast and immovable when the odds are stacked up against us. I would say that this city's success has been guided by faith, a faith that teaches us about joy, and not just any joy, but that unspeakable joy. So you see, we operate with the understanding that when the status quo told Fourth Ward what they couldn't be, God stepped in and showed them and showed us who they already were. Therefore, because they believe that they're going to get it, they already walk like they already have it. That, my friends, is how I see the legacy and history of the Fourth Ward. A neighborhood, a community that was once filled with hope, love, joy, faith, political prowess, and resilience. And I am a firm believer that we will all be judged by how we respect, reflect, and correct this history moving forward. The Fourth Ward, or Raleigh's Black Raleigh, is not forgotten, for it is evident in each of us here today who stand on the right side of history by recognizing that removal does not mean replacement, and gentrification does not have to mean eradication. While the physical look of the Fourth Ward changed during the 60s urban renewal, the spirit, fight, faith, and hope of the people who are the Fourth Ward still lives on today. They refuse to allow that which was taken away in the past to cloud their promising future. So they live for what tomorrow will bring because, as Dr. King eloquently stated, we are not makers of history, we are made by our history. Therefore, we have to ask, who will write our story? The story that will determine how Fourth Ward is seen in the future. The City of Raleigh stands ready to assist in the collective storytelling and narration of the Fourth Ward's legacy. How so, you might ask? We will partner with historians to create the story so that it is properly integrated into the fabric and history of Raleigh. In your words, not ours, so that things happen with you rather than to you. We will respectfully honor the legacy, culture, traditions, and the norms that are unique to the Fourth Ward through markers, signage, oral histories, and other relevant storytelling means. And we will work to preserve the remaining elements of the Fourth Ward from Washington Elementary School to Mount Hope Cemetery and all in between. That is the city's commitment to you. So as I come to a close, I am reminded each morning when I awake that to whom much is given, much is required. And we, the City of Raleigh, has to stand on business, the people's business, and ensure that Raleigh's history accurately reflects all of the voices in our community moving forward. Thank you.
Nicely done. I'm just going to say you have to put branding in that speech.
Yes.
Because that was something we heard many times from Octavia over the past week, just creating that brand. And I will say, I had never been to Mount Hope Cemetery. Oh my, that was probably one of the hidden gems of Raleigh. It is stunningly beautiful, it is peaceful, the history is amazing. That was, like I said, a hidden gem. Telling those stories, getting people to experience that, I think would be amazing. Thank you. And thanks for everybody who participated in the Fourth Ward events. And yes, it was on Sunday, a little bit church, singing. I was waiting for the dancing to start, but it was an amazing day. So I wish Miss Rainey was here to say thank you again personally, but it was amazing.
Awesome. And that concludes my report today.
Okay, thank you.
We're still good on time.
All right, next we have the report and recommendation of the Bike Ped Advisory Commission.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and City Council. I'm Barbara Godwin with the Transportation Department, one of the staff liaisons for BPAC, or the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. I'm here to introduce the chair of the commission, Mr. Nick Neptune. He'll be giving the annual report and update on the new work plan.
Thank you, Ms. Godwin. Madam Mayor, council members, it is good to be here with you this afternoon to share an update on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission's work from the past year and our work plan moving forward. Before I do jump in, I would like to thank all of you for your advocacy, for your leadership in advancing safer, all-ages infrastructure for our residents to navigate our city. I also like to thank our colleagues on city staff who have been incredibly, transparent, open, and just engaging with us as a commission as we seek to improve and expand our active transportation infrastructure. So again, as as a reminder, the mission of the commission is to advise our city council on all matters related to bicycle pedestrian activities and accommodation within our city. The commission is responsible for making recommendations to the council on the implementation of relevant programs, policies, regulations, and funding priorities regarding cyclist and pedestrian access and accommodation. The commission will also promote cycling and walking as a viable and safe transportation alternative and shall serve as ambassadors to the city in this regard. In terms of our overall objectives and purpose, again, we advise the City Council on all matters related to active transportation activities and accommodation, making recommendations on the implementation of said programs, policies, regulations, and funding priorities. And just overall, we promote active and multimodal transportation as a viable and safe alternative while we serve as ambassadors for this activity in the city. The Commission's responsibilities fall into these sort of four primary buckets of facilitation. We facilitate, citizen participation in our local municipal government's consideration of matters involving active and multimodal transport. We evaluate current or proposed laws, regulations, and best practices concerning active transportation and multimodal issues. Again, we promote intergovernmental and public-private cooperation and coordination on active and multimodal transportation matters, and we advise the public and our city council on matters affecting the relationship between active and multimodal transportation and parks and schools, transit, greenways, and other major destinations in our city. In terms of the composition and structure of the commission, thankfully we have a diverse coalition of volunteers on the commission who represent a variety of fields and backgrounds, from education, landscape design, city planning, health and wellness, youth and children's advocacy, transportation professionals, commuters, folks who are coming in from our disabled community, our senior community. The commission itself breaks down into three standing committees and one ad hoc. We have a policy committee, a planning committee, and an outreach committee that meets on a regular basis. And then from time to time, depending on the need, we'll pull together an ad hoc committee. In terms of this past year, our fiscal year 2023 heading into 24, a lot of the work involved, planning and the review of 2024 resurfacing projects with city staff, providing ongoing feedback on the design for cycling infrastructure, reviewing, and from policy standpoint, reviewing ongoing city engagement policies, review of recent text change policies, and working with city staff on the review of the downtown mobility study and the upcoming active transportation plan. In terms of outreach, lots of ongoing engagement with our business community regarding city projects, and of course, ongoing coordination with the city and their public engagement efforts. The analysis of our own commission's values as it's reflected in the upcoming active transportation plan, and again, the ongoing review of just how we're engaging with our public through city staff. In terms of the upcoming work plan, one big change is that we are following the update to a U.S. Department of Transportation sort of language change, modifying our use of vulnerable road users to active transportation users, again, just sort of reflecting the sort of evolving transportation landscape or language. I think the idea here is to better capture all the walker cyclists and folks who are in some fashion using themselves to power their devices, whether it be wheelchairs, mobility devices, micromobility riders, et cetera. again, looking forward, we would like to continue to provide a forum for public discussion around issues relevant to the safe and comfortable and equitable, implementation of active transportation across our city. We'd like to continue to evaluate and make recommendations on the state of our city's policy to, and planning and implementation efforts that affect our active transportation users. We'd like to continue our collaboration with, City Council and city staff so that we remain focused on eliminating deaths and injuries from the routine use, the regular use of Raleigh's transportation systems. We'd also like to establish a means of meeting more regularly with our colleagues on City Council. Again, we'd like to continue to engage our City of Raleigh transportation staff and any ad hoc groups that may be needed, advisory committees that may be needed as we continue to invest and expand our active transportation network. That honestly concludes the intention of our work in the year ahead. Again, just want to thank all of our colleagues on City Council who've been advocates for active transportation across the city. I've been on a number of bike rides, or I've been in programs with many of you at this council table. Would like to especially thank our council liaison, Councilmember Harrison, for her particular advocacy in all of this. But with that, I'm happy to take questions. And again, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Patton, do you have a question?
I do, yeah. Hi, thanks for being here. I was curious if you knew anything additional about that change, that nomenclature change from vulnerable road users to active transportation users. And I'll for additional context, in my question, I'm aware of this like city health profile, and I'm sure there are other organizations out in the world, and they give a rank to cities about how healthy their cities are. But they do this by combing our documents and our plans, and I know this one in particular looks for the specific phrase vulnerable road users, and a switch to active transportation users would thus, sort of render us ineligible for those points. And not that that's, that's just one small little nugget, but I was curious if you knew anything else about the motivation driving that change in nomenclature.
No, Councilmember Patton, that's a great question and certainly worth added consideration. Again, to my knowledge, it was brought before the commission the idea of just maintaining consistency with sort of national guidelines and standards in terms of language use, and really being clear about the users we're trying to support on our roads, right, on our streets. I don't know if colleagues on staff would have anything more to offer to that, but again, I think the intention of the commission was to continue to follow national guidelines with regard to the language.
Councilmember Harrison.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nick, for that. I love the work that y'all do. I'm excited to participate in the National Week Without Driving, the first week of October. So just throwing that out for anybody who wants to avoid getting in your car. You have a lot of options. Turns out we're no longer vulnerable. That's good. So actively we can get around by bus or walking or scooting or biking or, I don't know, hovercraft, whatever you can figure out. So that's going to be a fun week, and just appreciate, again, all that you do. We do have a transit committee meeting, I believe the last Thursday of the month. Is that right, Councilmember Branch? On bike lanes.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, but thank you for bringing it up. On September 26th, we have a meeting for transit transportation. Staff is going to come before us and talk about our bike plan and things of that nature, and kind of share some information. So definitely look forward to you all being involved and participating in that meeting. And also, I'll follow with you later because you mentioned areas about working with when there's conflict. Well, we're dealing with a conflict on one of our streets right now, and I would like to see what other roles that your group of experts, from volunteers, can help staff and this council with in working through those issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just to say the time of that meeting, that's 3 p.m. Thursday, September 26th, and love to see anyone from BPAC or folks that are interested attend.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much. Great to see you.
Thank you. Great to see you.
And thanks for your work.
Thank you.
I move for approval and acceptance of your report.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. That was unanimous. All right, next we have report and recommendation of the Historic Cemeteries Advisory Board.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, our city manager. I am Charles Craig, one of your assistant directors for Raleigh Parks. I'm excited to share today because I have the honor and privilege of working with our Historic Cemetery Advisory Board, and Ms. Amy Fix is going to come and share our work plan. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Fix, and I'm the chair of the City of Raleigh Historic Cemetery Advisory Board, and I'm pleased to report a productive year for our board. One of our primary goals, as noted by Mayor Baldwin earlier, is to emphasize the beauty and history that we have in our historic cemeteries here in the city. From the perspective of both education and outreach, we seek to raise awareness for our city's historic cemeteries, especially with regard to the diverse and storied histories intertwined throughout our 4 cemeteries. Recall in 2023, this council proclaimed August 10th as Anna Julia Cooper Haywood Day in Raleigh. As one of our acclaimed departed who is buried in City Cemetery, Dr. Cooper offered our board a dynamic personality to launch our campaign for increased awareness focused on the significance of Raleigh historic cemeteries with regard to our African American communities. Our board invited local historian Alan Welsh to attend a meeting and present on his extensive research regarding enslaved persons interred in our cemeteries. Mr. Walsh noted how Dr. Cooper's family was related to each of the Lightner and Haywood families, each of which figure prominently in Raleigh's progressive development. More recently, we invited native Raleighite Carmen Cawthon, who is likely best known for her book on historic Black neighborhoods in Raleigh. The board is actively considering opportunities to partner with Ms. Cawthon to engage in tour events focused on Mount Hope Cemetery. Members of the board participated in several city-sponsored events, including Juneteenth and the Dick's Sunflower events, to promote our historic cemeteries to those in attendance. A primary short-term goal for our board includes the creation of written pamphlets for our Dix Park Cemetery, similar to those that we have available for City, Mount Hope, and O'Rourke. Otherwise, our longer-term goals are outlined in our annual plan, and we thank you for your consideration. We're excited to continue our efforts to advance knowledge and awareness in Raleigh's historic cemeteries and welcome any recommendations the council may provide.
Okay. Anyone have questions?
Thank you for your work. Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, seriously, I was so impressed with the work that's been done in the history of Mount Hope. And I was like, how did I not know about this? So I think, too, the storytelling is going to be really critical in opening people's eyes to this. So thank you.
And I don't know if you know, but the maintenance and staff that are working on Mount Hope, it's been declared an arboretum based on the plantings of local trees and plants. So it's just their work is really totally unsung.
Yep, it was fabulous. So thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Thank you. Next, we have the report and recommendation of the Substance Use Advisory Commission.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. Brianna Scurry with the Department of Equity and Inclusion. I have another board sharing their work plan today, so I'm going to pass it off to, where'd she go? Hannah Tchaikovsky, who is our chair.
I still don't believe it either. Hi, I'm Hannah Tchaikovsky. I'm chair of the Substance Use Advisory Commission. We just abbreviate it SUAC, so I'll save the mouthful and just call it that. I joined the commission about a year ago, probably last month, and was put into the chair position back in November. So if there are any questions at the end, I'm more than happy to try to answer them. I may not know them, but I'll definitely get back to you guys if I don't know the answer. And this is our, work plan and annual report. Hopefully I can do this. So here's me. You guys know me now. I went to Appalachian State, North Carolina State University, basically grew up here. I was born elsewhere, but I've been here forever, so that's kind of my skin in the game of being on the commission. I also served as a peer educator and was the student representative for our alcohol and other drugs task force at Appalachian State and helped develop the collegiate recovery program at Appalachian State. So that's just my connection, and then I already told you when I joined. And then the commission's why is, we all know that there's opioid epidemics and just, drug overuse in general. So these are just a few statistics from 2022. And then we actually saw the first decrease in overall drug deaths in 2023, which is a 3% decrease from 2022. And that's been the first decrease since 2018. So that was just a fun little stat I threw in there. Then to review our 2024 fiscal year plan, basically the three things we wanted to do were to create a survey and find information about what individuals experiencing addiction and substance use possibly would like to tell us about, how could they better get treatment, and then create a social media plan to help promote any kind of events that we are having, as well as the survey, and then just be present at 6 or more events throughout Raleigh. For our survey, we definitely didn't get as many respondents as we would have liked to. I think the commission's goal was about 80 per month, and we came in at just under 100. We do have about 50 more survey results that are in paper format. We added that back in pretty late of the fiscal year, so we do have some backlog of people entering them in, but analysis of that is to come, and we'll present the results at a further date. And then we did create the SUAC logo, as well as launched all of our city-branded social media accounts, and we're in the process of developing a content calendar with someone who we've paid to do social media. And then we were present at 6 community events throughout the last fiscal year. So that was the Recovery Rally, POFest, the Alcohol and Drug Conference of North Carolina. That was down in the Outer Banks. Well, it wasn't in the Outer Banks. It was in Wilmington, but it's called the Outer Banks Conference. We were present at some of the Dreamville events, and then our 2 prescription take-back events, which I like to consider those my baby, but the most recent collection we had was 352 pounds of unused medication, and previous to that it was 298. So each year we're getting more and more medication, so just showing the need for either more events or more drop-off locations. So just a sneak peek into our survey results, just seeing what the overarching themes were. Honestly, I just threw this into ChatGPT and said, find me some overarching themes, and this is what we came up with. So primarily insurance limitations, inadequate support, lack of access to basic needs, services are too expensive, services aren't available, or mental health challenges getting in the way. So we are seeing a need for more services and affordability in the area, as well as, some kind of agreement with insurance companies of like, hey, this is a problem and we need help. So for the fiscal year 2025, we kind of changed up the way we separated out our task force. So instead of having 3 task force like we did last year, and that was the survey task force, I call it the social media task force. I don't remember what we named it. And then like our events task force, we just broke it up into really 2 this year. So that's going to be community education and outreach. So that is going to include all of our events, any kind of community workshops or listening sessions that we'll have, as well as public awareness campaigns, and then collaborative initiatives with healthcare providers. That's one task force, and then secondary, we'll have the strategy and evaluation. So this is more looking at engagements on social media, polls on social media to see where we do need education and where we need more support, as opposed to just a survey that we're sending out or have available at events. And then also partnership development as well. And then we would also like to review and propose amendments to our current bylaws. And there's us, all 9 of us. Thank you. If there's any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Branch?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the work that you all are doing. My question is kind of towards staff a little bit. Is there a way we can take the information, the data that they are receiving and partner and share it with the county? Because, county's priority is health. And I know they received a lot of money to deal with drug addiction and overdose, so that they can use this data to try to have better services for our citizens, to try to close some of these gaps. Because we're doing the work, and the last thing I hate to see is we collect information, we collect the data, but then what? So if we can kind of close that then what gap? I don't know the path forward towards that, but I just want to put that out there, a way that we can coordinate with the county and working with them, and also whatever work they're doing, they share with us that you all can utilize.
Yeah, and we are in contact with Alyssa Kitlash. She's like the program manager for the opioid settlement fund. She has been to a couple of our meetings, and we are in contact with her. So we are trying to collaborate there as much as possible, since health, like you said, is a county thing.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Keep up the great work. That was really a lot. And you've been there a year as chair?
Yes. Well, not even a year as chair. I've been there a year.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This was great.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you. Next, we have matter scheduled for public hearing, and we have one rezoning case that has been continued. If you will.
Good afternoon, Council. Robert Tate, Planning and Development. This is rezoning Z5523. This is for a collection of properties along Computer Drive and Six Forks Road, totaling of approximately 18 acres. The request is to go from OX3 with the Special Highway Overlay District to OX20 conditional use, keeping that overlay district. As you recall, the public hearing was opened on August 20th and continued to allow the applicant to add some conditions to the request. Signed conditions responding to staff comments were submitted and are going to be in this presentation today. So there are two new conditions, or one new condition. The first is the 7th on this screen, which would apply an urban limited frontage along Computer Drive. The 8th condition remains the same. And then there's a revision to the 9th condition with the stormwater consideration. This condition was revised to ensure enforceability, so adding a measurable unit to enforce that condition. So this presentation is going to be fairly quick, but the big change is that the request is now consistent with the urban format, as the condition would apply a frontage along Computer Drive. I'm available for any questions, and staff is here as well.
Any questions for staff? Councilmember Patton?
Yeah, hi. Are there any road improvements, like not the frontage, but are there any road improvements that are required on these, on either of their streets, or maybe the applicant can speak to it?
I can see if transportation staff can respond to that.
Good afternoon, Margaret Tartella, Transportation. Let me just pull up what is there versus what would be required through the UDO. 1 second. So both streets are built out to the cross-section that they're designated in the street plan. There are existing sidewalks on Six Forks Road, but the UDO would require a bike facility as well when the street improvements are made as part of a Tier 3 development or subdivision. And then for Computer Drive, sidewalk is partial, so it would be required to be completed along the frontage, and a bike lane would be required as well.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Okay, thank you. This was kind of a unique case in that the last time we opened the hearing, we had people speaking in support of this, but nobody speaking in opposition. We had 3 people sign up in opposition today. So after consultation with the city attorney, I'm going to award the full 8 minutes to these speakers. And based on that, we might have questions for staff again or the attorney. So if we could, okay, we got that set up. And please remember, there's 3 people sign up, Stanford Baird, Julia Fortier, and Gail Scoggin. So if you could share that time appropriately. Thank you.
Mayor Baldwin and city councilors, my name is Stanford Baird. I reside at on Rock Creek Drive, just a stone's throw from the property that is the subject matter of this rezoning. Thank you for the opportunity to voice opposition and concern regarding this rezoning case. We would request that the rezoning be denied or the case deferred and referred to the appropriate committee for further consideration. I outlined 2 principal objections to the rezoning case in my letter to you dated August the 27th. First, the rezoning does not protect the vegetative buffer at the Six Forks Road frontage. The green frontage requirements are proposed, but they are not adequate in this case. The green frontage requirements apply, quote, where it is desirable to locate buildings close to the street. That's not this case. You'd be hard-pressed to find any citizen of Midtown that would desire more buildings close to the street on Six Forks Road. More protective frontage requirements should be implemented, and the existing vegetated buffer at Six Forks Road and Computer Drive should be preserved. Second, there's inadequate transition of building heights. The applicant seeks permission from council to violate the Midtown height policy of the Midtown Area Plan of 3 stories. We suggest a setback of not less than 100 feet and then 3 to 5 story structures until the back of the property is reached. 20-story structures may be appropriate along the belt line, but certainly are not appropriate anywhere close to Six Forks Road. Additionally, this is not a case of too little, too late in the rezoning case. I provided these comments specifically verbally at the second neighborhood meeting. Additionally, I spoke with counsel for the applicant, Ms. Jamie Schwedler, this morning, and the applicant did not offer any additional consideration of these points, concerns, or objections. It's also an exaggeration to say that Midtown supports this rezoning. The Midtown CAC may have discussed this rezoning to some extent, but it's my information that the CAC never voted to support this rezoning. The city has guidelines and plans, like the Midtown Area Plan, to apply to everyone, to provide consistent application across the plan area. Residents should be allowed to rely on those plans and rely on the city to abide by and enforce those plans. This rezoning is not consistent with the Midtown Area Plan as related to building height and transitions. Again, we would ask you to defer or deny the rezoning at this time. Thank you for your assistance.
Okay, next we have Julia Fortier.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Julia Fortier, and I live on Tennyson Place in Drury Hills. I've lived there for 25 years. I love my home and my neighbors and the safe place that it has been since we first moved in. We are not anti-growth. We are proponents of healthy growth and promised infrastructure to handle the growth. Six Forks cannot simply handle the amount of additional traffic that will explode with the opening of all the residences planned. All the data that Stanford just mentioned also shows a clear fact that it does not follow certain parameters. We are most concerned about the added traffic and the fact that Raleigh has not done anything to accommodate for the increase that we are experiencing now and which will increase in the future. You just had Nick Neptune up here a minute ago talking about bicycle and pedestrian safety. You don't want to walk on Six Forks Road or bicycle on Six Forks Road. You risk your life. We risk our lives getting out of our neighborhood because it's so dangerous and so crowded. The roadways are narrow. Some questions to consider. What is the plan to make Six Forks larger to handle the increase in traffic? What is the plan? I don't know it. Have there been reports on the increase of accidents and crime in our specific area within the last 20 years? Has there been anything to determine whether emergency vehicles are going to have a more difficult time once traffic increases? Has there been a shadow study done in relation to the building height and the Georgetown townhomes that are right across the street? What other areas of Raleigh could be developed to offer what the city needs? Why does it have to be concentrated in such a small area? I would think that the businesses in the North Hill area would also be concerned about the congestion. Who wants to visit businesses that are surrounded by so much congestion where it's hard to navigate and where it's very hard to find a parking space? We are asking the city to solve this problem before we are inundated by a dangerous amount of traffic. We want to keep our area of Raleigh beautiful and safe for all to enjoy. The progress is backwards. We need to address the infrastructure first, and then the development follow. Thank you.
Okay, Gail Scoggin. Is Gail here? Okay, thank you. I don't see Michael Moore. I do see Paul Kellum. Could you, Paul, could you just provide an update on what we're working on Six Forks Road, please?
Good afternoon, Paul Callum, Transportation. So just as a reminder, so the current project with working with NCDOT is basically from the belt line, I guess Rowan going north. So right now, there's no planned improvements south of the interchange right now. So we've had those discussions with DOT, but it's just not on anybody's plan right now. Yes.
Councilmember Branch and then Jones.
Thank you for that. And my question is, been a native of Raleigh and traveling this road a lot of times when it was a different shopping center over there. Is there, what's the right, do you have any images or what the right-of-way is that's even available to currently widen that part of Six Forks? Because when I drive it, the only way I can see the road widening in my non-transportation eye is to take out all the businesses along the street.
Yeah.
So,
that's one of the challenges you have south of the belt line, which I think really why it's been a challenge for years, is the topography. You really got changes in topography, especially on the west side on Six Forks Road. So that's what makes it challenging. I do not know what the current right-of-way is, but I'm going to guess we'd have to acquire definitely more right-of-way and easements to do any kind of widening on that. And again, probably a fairly expensive project just south of the belt line. If I had to guess, just looking at topography, businesses, community impacts, things of that nature.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Jones.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming up. How do we begin that process of having that discussion in a more open area? Is this something that we can send to transit? Because I know when we did the Six Forks Improvement Project, and I made comments then, they're like, hey, south of this, that's my district, and I'm worried that I don't know what's happening down there. I hear you now that right now there is nothing planned. How do we start that process?
I'm going to look to Ken. I think basically we'd probably start with Campo probably in that conversation with NCDOT. Again, that's where we would likely begin those conversations.
Right, because I think it's very important. I think the residents bring up a very valid point that if we don't have any conversation, how do we just increase density? I did speak at the Midtown CAC and say, you know, DOT is this tricky thing that I'm learning about. You have to have the need in order for them to have the conversation. And so there's this dance that we have, but a more open discussion would be beneficial for the community.
Mayor Pro Tem?
As a follow-up, didn't we approve a plan for some connection from Navajo Drive to Barrett and Waketown Drive? I mean, that was a year or two ago, but there's supposed to be some, we're looking at access and more ways to get folks in and out, I believe.
Yes, yeah, Waketown, so the end of Waketown Drive is dead end today, so yes, we've got some rezonings and looking at ability to make that connection over to Barrett.
That's something the city is working on.
Working on with the developer, yes.
And there is some plan to do some connection over to Navajo, right? Isn't it like a bridge?
Yes, yes. So the Midtown Bridge, that's again in the early planning stages right now, so nothing funded.
So the question about Six Forks Road is one question, but there is a plan for greater connectivity in the area.
Okay.
Can I jump in really quick for that? Another rezoning that we did about a year ago, the other end of Computer Drive, this same Atlas Stark developer is creating a connection to give more egress out of this side of North Hills, and that is Atlas Stark as well.
Yeah, and again, the sidewalk, we've recognized on Six Forks Road, again, especially on the west side, just with the topography challenge, we've had requests in the past for sidewalk, but again, you're just looking at major property impacts just along that. So that's been the challenge really on Six Forks, unfortunately.
And then I also had a question about some of these frontages. I understand that we held the case last time to add some conditions to address some of these concerns about tree coverage and how the building will interact with the street. And I know that's not really your department, but I'm just curious if someone could speak to that, please. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about this? Okay.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we have urban forestry staff available, but we can.
Been a question for the applicant then.
Okay.
I know that conditions were added regarding the frontage
Yes,
after last
I
time.
was going to ask the applicant to come up. I had a question about that as well. So
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of Council. Jamie Schwadler on behalf of the applicant. Appreciate all the questions and the discussions today. This is our presentation from the last council meeting. It was also similar to what we showed at Planning Commission. And I think this slide helps illustrate why we've made the changes that we had. You can see the green frontage there on Six Forks was part of the Midtown Plan, what the citizens, voters, and residents voted on in support of, but there was no designation for Computer Drive along the area from Six Forks down to Barrett. And that was a concern that was raised at Planning Commission. And so we brought the case forward, heard concerns here, and held the case for 2 weeks to add that urban limited frontage. So you do have a definite commitment to frontage on Computer Drive now that is in excess of what the policy would even require, but gives you that certainty as to not only a sidewalk dimension, but also tree grates or planting, so you have a defined street.
Councilmember Harrison.
Yeah, Jamie, could you just remind us, the green frontage, what's the difference there between that and the urban limited? How's that going to look to folks?
Sure. The green frontage there along Six Forks requires what you could basically think of as a street yard. It's about, I think it's 20 feet to dimension before you could have a building. So there will be a step back. That's in addition to the bike and ped infrastructure that Margaret mentioned that's required by the codes. You'll have most likely a turn lane there, as well as a bike facility, pedestrian facility, then your green lawn setback, then the possibility of a building. But if you recall, the special nature of the site right here, this 100 feet within that area of Six Forks, has a significant amount of topography, as Paul just mentioned, as well as a blue line stream. And so you've got a very narrow area where there will be even a possibility of a building. So I know there's concerns over what that transition would look like, and we appreciate Mr. Baird's comments today. But as we mentioned at the Planning Commission, Commission and at the public hearing, there's a very constrained area here, and we're trying to follow the plan as best we can with the actual circumstances on the ground. And that's why you get the addition of the significant public benefits, right, to bring it back in line with your comprehensive plan, the Midtown plan. And we really appreciate Robert clarifying that with that frontage, the case is now fully consistent with the urban farm map. So appreciate all the work that staff has done to get us here through this year-long process.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Can you go back to the slide you had on a second ago? It was the map with like all, and those dash lines, those are the streets I was asking about. So those for staff, that is our street plan, right? Connecting the, they're all shaking their head, yes. So the first question was like, do we have plan to widen Six Forks south of 440? We do not have a plan for that. There are a lot of concerns. I mean, I voted for the widening north of 440. I personally am not in favor of street widenings. I think it creates induced demand. It is a better way to get around. I voted for it because it was promised to the community. South of Six Forks, we don't have a plan for that, but we do have these other plans where these streets are coming to connect, to provide better ingress and egress to this area. Is that my understanding? Everyone's shaking their head yes. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no additional questions, I'm going to close the hearing. Councilmember Jones.
Thank you. Excuse me. Work has been being done for over a year on this project. They held neighborhood meetings and worked extensively with our Midtown CAC. But residents have voiced in more than one project, but especially here, the need to extend that 1,000-foot requirement for notice of those neighborhood meetings. And I would like, after this, I will talk to staff about how we can look to grow that so more neighbors are contacted as we move forward with development. The Midtown Area Plan was created in 2020, and we are just beginning to see developers buy into that plan. Based on Planning Commission's recommendations, we are sending the Midtown policies to the Safe, Vibrant, Healthy Community Committee, and we'll look for opportunities to strengthen the community benefits there. The frontage request has been conditioned since our last meeting, and that's also much appreciated. Traffic, as we were discussing, has been brought up as a big concern, and I agree that is valid. Growing is difficult, and DOT needs to see the need for road improvements before they will agree to them. This feels backwards, exactly, to some residents, and I totally get that. We've actually just done that, but I'd love to further, I will continue discussions with staff to give an update as to what's being considered for this side of 6-4 since it was not included in the big improvement project we approved a few months ago. Looking to understand better what are the metrics that DOT is looking for to prioritize this specific area for growth. If approved, this project would still need to go through the site plan and get financing before they broke ground. So I do think this is a good time to get answers to the questions that regarding DOT to help the community understand the planning that is going on for the area. Every rezoning case is a negotiation with the applicant. Council's job is to make the best deal with the community in mind. We ask applicants to be part of the growth of the city by contributing to the community benefits, and this case is offering our district with the opportunity to bring 115 affordable units and green stormwater infrastructure improvements. I understand that we don't have all the answers in this moment, but this is part of the planning process. I appreciate all the conversations about this development and have the highest hopes that we can continue to talk about these important topics as we move into the next phase of the process. With all of that, I want to thank both residents and the development team for sharing your thoughts, and I would like to move to approve the case with the consistency statement. I move to adopt the proposed consistency statement dated September 3rd, 2024, contained in the agenda materials, and to approve the zoning amendment with the adoption and effective dates described in the agenda item under recommended action.
Okay, do we have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Patton. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you. All right, next we have the report and recommendation of the Economic Development and Innovation Committee.
Yes. One item to report, we recommend removing the leveling the playing field workforce development issue from the agenda without a recommendation. The understanding is that staff is going to work with the organization on some future opportunities for collaboration. We had a really good conversation with them and they're doing great work, and there's some good opportunities for us to sort of amplify that, I think. So that is the recommendation, is to just take it off the agenda, let staff follow up with us, and I think they're going to give us some more info in a manager's update. So that's the motion.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Fort. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous.
We have 2 items pending, the Economic Development Roundtable with our HBCUs, and then the Downtown Raleigh Economic Development Strategy. I anticipate we will take up the Downtown Raleigh Economic Development Strategy at our next meeting, which will be on Tuesday, September 24th at 1:30 p.m. in the council chambers.
Okay, thank you. Growth and Natural Resources.
Yeah, we discussed 2 items at our last meeting. On the first, this is rezoning case Z3923 Nall Road. We did recommend approval for this case contingent on signed amended conditions submitted by the applicant. So we were able to talk through some of the issues that neighbors had, and I think we found some consensus. So we're looking forward to see those updated conditions. And then on the second item, we just received information about the Falls Lake watershed regulatory and conservation activities. And so we have now recommended removing that item with no action taken. So those were the 2 items there. I do have a request for an item in either our next GNR committee meeting or perhaps a information session for all of council, but it has come to my attention that there are some libraries in our city that could be impacted by the library bond, and so I would like to get an update from Wake County about those bond activities. I'm specifically curious about Athens Drive Community Library. It is in the Athens Drive High School, and the high school is scheduled to be rebuilt, which means the library will move, but I'm not aware of any location that is right in that community that's going to be available. So one of my questions for our team, and I've been talking to some folks before this, is do we have any city property that might be available for that area, but also just a broader conversation about the library bond. I'd like to hear how that will impact the city and our residents. So I guess I'll put that to you, Marshall, about whether you think it's best in a committee meeting or, as an information session if we have time.
Sure. So what I will do is I'll reach out to the county manager on Thursday when we have some time together to see if he and his staff or someone from his staff would be willing to come for a work session to kind of give us kind of daylight what's being proposed in the library bond, being mindful of that's their work. Mm-hmm. And so we got to kind of coordinate and facilitate with them, but I'll definitely reach out to him on Thursday.
Okay. And would we have time for a work session prior to November? Because that's when the library bond will be on our ballot.
If they are willing, we are willing.
Okay.
Yeah. I found some space, maybe we can ease it in the second meeting in October.
The second meeting in October would work? Okay.
But that will be dependent upon their schedule, but yes.
Okay. And do you need a motion from council about this topic?
Before you move on, I think there's some comments about some other
Yeah.
libraries.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely, because there's been some conversations about the bond in Southeast Raleigh and the impact and some information that's not in it. So just to be transparent, I know this is a county initiative. It's almost like us having the county talk about our parks. Right. But as far as my district, I definitely want to make sure that we put that piece in there and it's part of this whole conversation as well. So if we can share that and bring forth, because I know we also had some conversations about our DMV site
yes.
in relations to one of the libraries as well. So I would like to bring that up as well and just hear their thoughts.
Okay.
Councilmember Fort, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I want to echo the sentiments raised by Councilmember Branch, and I'm going to specifically say I know that there have been conversations about the Southgate Library and Richard B. Harrison, so if we're going to target specific libraries, I don't want to leave it general, so make sure that those two will be covered in the topic.
Mm-hmm. I've also heard this over and over again for 25 years, downtown library. And I don't know if there's any news on that as well, but I think, too, out of respect for the county, we understand this is their work, their responsibility. And also, I know there's people in the community who are upset. They need to address those concerns with the county and not with the city, because that's the decision makers there. So, Councilmember Melton. Mayor
Yeah, I
Pro
was just
Tem.
going to add that, I think a work session, if we're going to do something, a work session where the county can come explain their bond to us and leave it open-ended too, so that some of these other library concerns can also be discussed. There's a saying, it's all local. So sometimes residents don't understand who has the authority over the schools or the county or the health department. And so it would be beneficial to us as council members to have the information, I'm sure, as we're fielding questions. And I agree, I've heard concerns about all of these libraries that are talked about. And I've also heard concerns about why don't we have a downtown library? And, when Cary's got a nice big new one. And so maybe daylighting some of these conversations with the county in a collaborative information gathering way could be very helpful for their future planning purposes.
Yep, agree. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Patton.
Councilmember Patton.
Sorry, not to pile on, but can you put Green Road Library on that list too?
It's all over.
Y'all gonna make them not come to the meeting. We'll just ask for a library update, and then they can kind of daylight what it is that they're proposing to do in the proposed bond. Because again, we don't know that information as of yet. And that's really in their wheelhouse. So I'll be glad to see if we can't facilitate that meeting in October work session.
And again, if community members have concerns or issues, they need to address those with the county. They do have public comment period as well.
They certainly do. We'd love to hear.
Not as lively as ours.
No. All right.
Madam
Next.
Mayor,
Yeah.
I wanted those two items. Do we need to vote those out? Do you need a motion? I'm sitting in clerk's office, so nodding. So I'm saying I move for approval.
Do we need a motion? Okay. Second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. That was unanimous. Next, Safe, Vibrant, and Healthy Community Committee. We will be meeting September 24th at 11:30 a.m. on both items that are in committee, the revenue capture options in Midtown, St. Albans area plant. Transportation and Transit.
Yes, we will, as stated earlier in the meeting, be meeting on September 26th at 3 p.m. here in the chamber. At our last meeting, we did discuss the Brookside Drive Safety Initiative. Again, this is about parking and bicycle lanes. So it goes back to the item where we'll have bicycle lane design and implementation on our agenda in September. And if time permits, we will discuss the 2-hour parking time limits on St. Mary Street so we can get that out.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we have the report, Mayor and City Council. Start with Mayor Pro Tem.
I don't have a report. I just wanted to sort of acknowledge, and I know the city manager did this, but all of the Fourth Ward events that took place over the past week, I was fortunate to attend several of them. I learned so much. I've been in Raleigh, 20 plus years now, and you don't know the history of places. Even being engaged in this work, I didn't have a full appreciation for it until I was learning at these events and prior to these events. And I think we could do a lot more as a city with honoring our history. Miss Rainey said several times, I heard her say, we can't go back to the past, but we can brand and tell the story for the future. And there was one event I attended where they had a development team for one of the projects in the Fourth Ward over by the convention center, presenting what they had planned. And they are working with the Fourth Ward Association on providing some public green space and some storytelling and art. And I think that that's a really good model that all future developments in that area or in any area that has a particularly sensitive history could be working to include. It doesn't, I think, take much time to meet with folks who have that knowledge and try to provide something that helps do some placemaking. And so I would certainly throw my support behind whatever we can do from a city standpoint on the branding aspect and the storytelling aspect. And I would encourage the private sector as well to be thinking about that. But I thought it was great, and I hope more folks can get to learn about the past. That's all I got. Thanks.
Councilmember Patton.
Yeah, I also attended some Fourth Ward events across last week. Particularly want to shout out Miss Rosa, the president of the Fourth Ward Neighborhood Association, at their family cookout. She had a connection to the DJ from Public Enemy, and I don't think my husband has been more fanboy in my lifetime. I have I'm also announcing my community meeting, which will be Saturday, the 28th, September 28th, at Little Blue Bakehouse from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then, in keeping with tradition, some good stuff we did through the consent agenda today. We accepted a grant to expand our work on digital inclusion, which includes making sure folks have access to devices and also know how to use them. We added a swift water rescue to the plans for the new fire training facility, contributed funds to the Tar River Land Conservancy that'll acquire and permanently protect 85 acres in the Falls Lake watershed. We approved the contract for the Falls of News Bridge repairs, which is really important to my constituents, and lowered some speed limits in the enclave at Falls River.
Thank you. Councilmember Black.
No report today. I was listening to Mayor Pro Tem Melton talk about the need for branding, and it brought up a conversation that I know several of us have had with some community members about the need for a city historian. I don't know if we formally put in a request for a budget item or looking into that, but I would like to put that out there as a request, looking into a city historian, just with looking at how we as council members who all have different backgrounds, different experiences, and different understandings of this city can understand more of the history as we are making decisions on the future. So I'm going to put that out there for a budget note. And then also thank Miss Octavia. I couldn't make it to many of the events, and I will call her. I did get to do some documentary storytelling earlier last year around the Fourth Ward, so I was well-versed on some of the history, but very appreciative of us really being reflective and honoring that restorative justice resolution that we did last year and talking about the ways that we have perpetuated harm across the city and how we can look at being better in the future.
Councilmember Branch.
Definitely echo the sentiment of the great work with Ms. Rainey and Ms. Rosa as far as the Fourth Ward. Megan, I think we missed each other on Saturday. We were crossing paths. There was a lot going on this weekend. And speaking of a lot going on this weekend, I want to thank the African American Cultural Festival for putting on a great festival. I think it was so great. Mother Nature decided to show up as well and took out the evening of Sunday. But overall, it was a great festival. A lot of people attended. It's a great way to really support a lot of our businesses that are in the community. And on the note from Mayor Pro Tem Melton and Councilwoman Black, I want to highlight we've already started, and I know Parks has our cultural resources, but we have the work at the Top Green Center. And I want to highlight the work that's taking place currently at the Top Green Center to turn it into a resource center and, to really help tell the story within the community. And I want to co-sign on that budget note as far as the historian piece that's needed to see what it costs, because we've started the work. We just have to make sure we have the resources in place to continue the work. So I know there was funding that was set aside to do some modifications to the Top Green Center. So if we can also, if communications can find a way to continue to connect all of these stories to let the community know what we are doing as we continue to move forward and add other things to that. So I just wanted to share that. And again, thank you staff for all that you do. Hopefully you all had a nice 3-day weekend this past weekend, those who were able to take off.
Councilmember Jones.
Not much for me today. Just a reminder that my next community meeting is going to be September 11th from 6 to 8 p.m. at La Cucina Italian Restaurant over off Glenwood Avenue. Hope to see you there. Thanks.
Councilmember Fort.
Certainly want to echo the sentiments about the Fourth Ward celebration. Had the opportunity to attend several of those events and participate with those based on Ms. Rainey's invitation, and also the African American Cultural Festival. And I will highlight another event that staff participated in, which is also the Method Community Day. So staff has been really, really busy over these last couple weeks, really engaging with the community and highlighting a lot that's going on in a number of our communities. So didn't want to leave Method out because staff did a wonderful job with that event as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Harrison.
Yeah, I'll just continue the remarks about the Fourth Ward celebration. I got to visit Mount Hope Cemetery and then go to the City of Raleigh Museum. For anyone who missed any of the, please go to the museum because there's a great exhibit where you can learn all about the Fourth Ward now. Shout out to Haley Kinsler, graduate student at NC State, who did much of that research. And then finally, I got to sing with Marshall on Sunday on the stage at the Gospel Extravaganza, and that was truly a fabulous day.
Okay, this is what we're all talking about. It's been a week, but I just want to give a shout out to Ernie Dollar, who really brought the history of Mount Hope Cemetery to life. He did an outstanding job opening up that session and then closing with just such the woman who played the tambourine and sang. Oh my, she had me. It was unbelievable. It was great, and I got to talk to her afterwards. But she really brought the joy, and it was amazing. But and this one here, our city manager, she gave a great speech, and lots of applause. But we have a work to do. And we can't forget about this. It has to be a priority. And you have committed to that, which I was so happy to hear. And we're ready to go forward. So thank you, everybody. All right, next we have appointments.
Good afternoon. So our first appointment is going to be for the Design Review Commission. We have one alternate vacancy. Councilmember Patton nominated Jianping Yang. So that nomination will be on your next ballot. Next, we have the Fair Housing Hearing Board. Amber Williams received 8 votes, so she will be appointed. Stormwater Management Advisory Commission, no nominees, so that will appear on your next ballot. Nominations, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, one regular vacancy. The term of Jeronica Goodwin is expiring, and she wishes to be considered for a reappointment. Her meeting attendance is included in the agenda.
Well, I think I originally appointed her, so I'll move to reappoint her. I know she's been actively participating and is an avid bike rider. So.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you.
All right. Hispanic and Immigrant Affairs Board, one regular vacancy. The term of Celicia Everhart is expiring, and she does not wish to be considered for reappointment. Per City Code, members will serve until replaced. Typically, we would elevate the alternate or community member, but as you have been told, that they have not been attending any meetings and have not had any conversation with staff since August 2023. So it would be up to council if you wanted to nominate someone else or appoint. So
I would move to remove Ms. Mulry from the roster, seeing that she has not attended any meetings in over a year, and then I have 2 nominations, Kimberly Tyson and Michael Okeke for the next ballot.
could you spell the second one, Michael?
Yeah, Okeke, O-K-E-K-E. O-K-E-K-E.
Have they submitted?
They're in Granicus, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's a motion?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that was for the removal. And then your nominations will come forward the next meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Human Relations Commission, one regular vacancy. The term of Jim Mello is expiring, and he does not wish to be considered for reappointment. Usually, we would elevate the longest-serving alternate member, which is Peyton Glendenning, at the end of Mr. Mello's term. That would be up to you guys. The Mrs. Glendenning attendance is included in the agenda.
I move second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous as well.
Right. Police Advisory Board, 1 regular vacancy. A resignation has been received from regular at-large member Patsy Morgan. The past practice has been to elevate the longest-serving alternate member, which is Cole McMullen, and declare an alternate vacancy.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you.
All right. Raleigh Transit Authority, resignation has been received from Cameron Zamote, so that vacancy will appear on your next ballot.
And Cameron was an alternate, so.
Yeah. And, okay.
I believe Johnny Lee Thomas was on the ballot at last cycle when we appointed Cameron Zamote. So can we
Place
just
him
put
back on the
Johnny Lee
ballot.
Thomas on the next ballot?
Okay.
All right, that was your nomination.
Okay, next we have the report of the city attorney.
No report.
Okay, and then the city clerk.
Mayor and Council, you received draft minutes in your agenda materials.
Move for approval.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you. All right, we do have a closed session today. Read the motion. Motion is in order to enter closed session pursuant to GS 143-318-11A3 to consult with the city attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege and to consider and give instructions regarding the handling and/or settlement of potential claim in the following matters: City of Raleigh versus 3M Company and Raleigh Board of Adjustment matter regarding Raleigh Country Club. Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you. We have provided staff direction on items that we discussed in closed session, and we are adjourning the meeting. We'll be back at 7 p.m. Thank you.